The two Southeast Asian countries of Vietnam and Cambodia share a few things in common. Among those things, a border, a history of French colonialism, and that they've been under communist governments before. Vietnam is actively under a communist government, while Cambodia is currently a monarchy, and not one of those communist monarchies. The French colonial era would see Vietnam, Cambodia, as well as Laos under French Indochina. For France, involvement in this area provided them with resources like coffee, rice, and rubber, helped them protect Catholic missionaries, and facilitated trade access to China. The city of Saigon, now called Ho Chi Minh City, was seized in 1859, and in June 1862, after the French armies had overwhelmed the Vietnamese resistance and conquered the three provinces adjacent to Saigon, a peace treaty was signed relinquishing them to be put under French control. The French takeover of the whole of Vietnam was incremental and finalized in 1887. Concurrently, Cambodia became a colony under France in 1863. The French were very self-interested in maintaining this colony and kept tight political control, where the top positions were Frenchmen. During this time, there were Vietnamese and Cambodian emperors as well, but their power was limited and they were subject to being deposed if they disagreed with French authority. Mais oui, j'adore la France. The majority of the local populations were illiterate throughout this time. Illiteracy in Vietnam before the Second World War was estimated at 95%, as full education was largely reserved for French-speaking elites. In Europe, when Nazi Germany defeated the French Third Republic and installed the collaborationist regime, control of the colony also transferred to them. In 1940, an agreement was made with Japan to grant strategic military privileges in the advantageous territory of Indochina, but Japan violated it. Japan invaded the southern region in 1941, and in March 1945 occupied the whole of French Indochina until their surrender later that year. Cambodia declared its independence from France on November 9th, 1953. Its sovereignty was declared under the sole recognized authority of this guy in 1954 in the Geneva Accords, which put a formal end to the First Indochina War. The same accord declared a partition between North and South Vietnam. The North was led by Ho Chi Minh and embraced communist ideas, while the South desired a Western-friendly capitalist society. The leader of Cambodia maintained an official neutral stance between North and South Vietnam, although northern troops were at first given access to Cambodian territory for military operations, which was a self-interested move to have favor of China and the communists, which were the side that the leader believed was most likely to win. And this stance was then pressured to be reversed as it was viewed as a violation of neutrality and clearly favored the North. The Communist Party of Kampuchea, better known as the Khmer Rouge, was led by Pol Pot. They were founded after the Indo-Chinese Communist Party, which was founded by Ho Chi Minh, among others, and they wished to overthrow the Kingdom of Cambodia under leader and establish a government purportedly in line with communist ideals. I'm not going to debate on whether it was. The Cambodian Civil War began on April 2nd, 1967. North Vietnam, as well as the Viet Cong, which is the South Vietnamese communist guerrilla insurgency, supported, trained, and fought alongside the Khmer Rouge fighters, and the Khmer Rouge supported them back in the Vietnam War. China under Mao Zedong, North Korea under Kim Il-sung, Albania under Enver Hoxha, and Romania under this guy, all also provided various financial and munitions support to them. North Vietnam was supported by the Soviet Union as well, but the same support was not given to the Khmer Rouge, who was more directly favoring China. And the Sino-Soviet split happened, of course. On July 2nd, 1976, Vietnam was once again reunified under the communist government, forming the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. The Khmer Rouge captured the Cambodian capital of Phnom Penh on 17th of April 1975, and on the 5th of January 1976, the constitution of a new state, Democratic Kampuchea, was established. The Constitution of Democratic Kampuchea was not overly outstanding as far as socialist constitutions go, and did not express what would come or what would take place in the time to come within the nation. An estimated total of between 1.2 and 2.8 million deaths took place in what historical consensus refers to as the Cambodian genocide. The victims belonged to various minority identities and different categories within society. Chams, which is a Muslim predominantly Muslim minority that has been in that region for millennia. Cambodians of Chinese, Vietnamese, and Thai descent, intellectuals, Buddhist, and other religious leaders or followers such as Christians or Muslims, dissenters and those associated with the previous regime, anyone deemed a spy or infiltrated within the party, and more. The goal was to eliminate all threats to the revolutionary, anti-capitalist, and anti-imperialist ideal of the state. Throughout 1977 and 1978, many Kampuchean attacks against the border regions of Vietnam took place and civilians were massacred. Despite the relations in the past, the Kampuchean regime really viewed Vietnamese people as enemies, aligning itself with a extreme interpretation of Maoist orthodoxy as well as nationalism, and strongly opposing the revisionism of the post-Stalin era Soviet Union, which Vietnam was aligned with. They were not naturally allied ideologically simply for being Marxist-Leninist and communist states. In response to these direct attacks, Vietnam attempted a diplomatic resolution with the Cambodian regime, but to no avail. It was decided that a full invasion of Cambodia in order to depose Pol Pot's regime was necessary. The Khmer Rouge government labeled Vietnam now as effectively an imperialist aggressor who wanted to turn Cambodia into their satellite since 1930. That's what they said in a broadcast, stating that it was a threat to Cambodian territory and the Cambodian race. And orders were to kill 30 Vietnamese soldiers for every Cambodian soldier. The formal start date of the war between Vietnam and Cambodia was the 21st of December 1978. Who was back on the side of each? The Eastern Bloc, namely the USSR and Czechoslovakia, were on the side of Vietnam. They were the biggest advocates of Vietnam's defense at the United Nations, blocking a motion for a ceasefire and the withdrawal of foreign troops, that is Vietnamese troops, from Kampuchea. China, in order to force Vietnam to withdraw from Cambodia, invaded in 1979, and it took roughly a month for Vietnamese troops to fight off this invasion. The United States and most of the West supported Vietnamese withdrawal, and by proxy were supporting the Khmer Rouge's position of that they were being threatened. The pro-Vietnamese government of the People's Republic of Kampuchea was founded by the Kampuchean United Front for National Salvation with Vietnamese support and under the occupation of the Vietnamese People's Army. It was headed by defectors of the Khmer Rouge, and despite by that time being the acting government, it had only limited recognition internationally, which came from the communist nations of the Soviet Union, East Germany, Bulgaria, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Poland, Laos, Cuba, South Yemen, Afghanistan, Ethiopia, Congo, Benin, as well as India, which is not a communist country or never has been. The coalition government of Democratic Kampuchea stayed the UN-recognized government over Cambodia despite being in exile. As this was occurring during the Cold War, the United States' reason for supporting the anti-Vietnam side, though not deliberately taking an explicit pro-Khmer Rouge position, was due to Vietnam's pro-Soviet position. The previous chief of state, this guy, and before that king of Cambodia, who had been under house arrest after resigning from a symbolic post in the Kampuchean government, formed the National United Front for an independent, neutral, peaceful, and cooperative Cambodia, and led the coalition government. The coalition continued to include the Party of Democratic Kampuchea, the successor to the Communist Party of Kampuchea, or Khmer Rouge, which was headed by Pol Pot from 1980 to 1985. The 1990s would see the dissolution of the People's Republic of Kampuchea and the eventual resurrection of the Kingdom of Cambodia, which is what it is now. An unrecognized provisional government under the Khmer Rouge, the Provisional Government of National Union and National Salvation of Cambodia, was founded in 1994 and sought to oppose the Kingdom of Cambodia. And it was headed by a senior member of Pol Pot's government and dissolved 4 years later in 1998. Relations between Cambodia and Vietnam have greatly improved in the present day, as have relations between Vietnam and the United States, despite that Vietnam is a communist country and possesses a similar economic system to China. They are considered a potential ally against the greater threat that America sees in China. Vietnam doesn't align with China that much, despite that their relations are a bit better today as well. They hotly dispute China's claims with regards to the South China Sea. Cambodia is still, once again, as it has been since 1993, a monarchy under this guy, the son of this guy, the legacy of the Cambodian genocide is still felt within the country. And in 2006, surviving Khmer Rouge leaders were tried before a tribunal, and 3 were convicted.